Hey, welcome to the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute with your host, the alchemist of Indiana's Black Forest, Alan Bishop. Hey, this channel is all about home distilling and legal distilling. If you've got questions, reach out to us in the comments below, social media, or via bishopshomegrown@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out thealchemistcabinet.com. Hey, what's up, guys? Finally getting a chance to sit down and do a couple videos here this evening. So, as you know, it's been incredibly busy between setting up Old Homestead Distillery. Go check that out. Like it on Facebook, the various different, social media apps that you guys are on. You're going to want to book the hotel at some point in time. Come check it out. It's a beautiful hotel, beautiful property, lake, marina, gas station, brewery, winery, and soon to be distillery, obviously. So, been busy on that, putting equipment together, building tables, painting, doing all the various things that we have to do. Also trying to get the garden up and going for the year. Just sort of working around the clock to keep everything up and rolling, as it were. And I haven't had a lot of time to put into One Piece at a Time, and or If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything, or Distiller's Talk. Although we are recording 2 Distiller's Talk episodes this week, and I'm also lining up a hell of a schedule for If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything for the next couple months. And videos will become much more prevalent in the next few weeks as I actually have time to focus on doing those here and there, whether they're at work or they're at home. So please keep your questions coming. thebishopshomegrown@gmail.com. Check out thealchemistcabinet.com. Pick up, the Alchemist Cabinet Philosophy Volume 1, Volume 2, The Black Forest Method. I am in the process of writing the second almanac for this fall that'll be out sometime late this fall for next year. The feedback from the almanacs has been awesome. The feedback from the books has been awesome. I really appreciate you guys. I love you guys to death. Keep the questions coming. So we're going to jump into some questions here. And this one may just be one question because it's a very long question. And then I'll do another video for the second question. As always, again, bishopshomegrown@gmail.com, YouTube comments below, social media, send me your questions. I will try my hardest to get to them. I know sometimes I miss them. I do apologize for that. It's such a busy time right now. Thanks for the great response to Jesse's video with me on the absinthe, and then Jesse's follow-up video actually making the absinthe. It means the world to me. I love working with Jesse. Hoping to get him at Old Homestead at some point to teach a class or to have a seminar or to make a product together, whatever he wants to do, man. That's the entire point of Old Homestead, right? So anyways, let's get into this. So name withheld on this one. So offtake speed. This is a long sort of question as well as statement. So, hey Alan, I have a question regarding offtake speed on a pot still. I've got a 65-liter boiler with a copper onion on top, 12-liter capacity, 4-inch fittings top and bottom, and then a 4-inch to 2-inch copper column on top that is 500 millimeters long, so it reduces diameter gradually over its length. That's a cool setup for sure. This then connects to a 2-inch line arm and a 2-inch shotgun condenser. I've read and heard that with a 4-inch column I can take off spirit between 2 to 4 liters per hour. I've been running it around 2 liters per hour for most of my spirits runs so far, and felt like the tails were either coming off earlier than expected or were possibly smearing with the late hearts. I recently tried an experiment where I split my low wines from an all-grain sour mash bourbon and ran one batch at 2 liters an hour and the next identical batch at 1.5 liters an hour, by only changing the power input to the elements, which are in an insulated false bottom in the pot. With the slower offtake, I found I had slightly smaller heads cut with a more defined transition in the hearts, and then I also felt like the tails came on later in the run, and once again were easier to pick as the change seemed more distinct. The fast run collected about 4 liters of spirit from 68% to 58%, and the slower run was closer to 5 liters from 69 to 55. Seems more distinct. The fast run, my bad. I've been happy with my product once aged in glass with bourbon barrel staves, but now I wonder if I've been wasting product due to smearing, making it difficult to make more precise cuts. Is 1.5 liters an hour too slow with a 4-inch offtake, or does the fact it reduces down to 2-inch before the shotgun condenser mean that my offtake speed should be the same as if I had a 2-inch column the whole way through? Anything you can contribute is much appreciated. Also, recently you were asked about whether to sparge grain with hot or cold water. I always sparge with hot water, which I think makes the most sense, but I did read somewhere to keep the sparge water under 70 C to minimize tannin extraction from the barley. Many thanks from Australia. I agree with you. I think on the sparging here, so not going to too high of a temperature not to extract the tannin. That makes sense to me, especially those sort of obviously those husky sort of flavors, those brand sort of flavors. Sometimes that can happen in wheat too. I have run into that, especially wheat that hasn't been cleaned properly. That is something that has happened to me in the past for sure with farm grown wheat and things of that nature. not so much with sparging or lautering, but just in actually putting that into an all-grain bourbon style mash. Got some funky flavors out of it. I personally kind of like that sort of earthy, funky sort of thing that I got out of that, but I know that some people react poorly to that, and I understand entirely why. In terms of your offtake speed, I would say, honestly, if you're not in a commercial facility and you're doing this at home, whatever you see that makes a better quality product, and I would say that even if you were in a commercial distillery, but I know that things are what they are in a commercial distillery sometimes, right? Time being money, energy being money, right? I would say that if you were getting a better quality product, in your opinion, a product that matches what you want, and potentially more of it running that slower speed, go for it. I really, when it comes to offtake speed, I've never really paid that much attention to it, truthfully. I mean, I have in terms of heat input, right? I almost always start the still off on the doubling run at, full temperature, and then cut back right before I start to get some product over. Cut my heads out, my 4 shots out, and then turn up the temperature just a little bit, which is an old cognac thing, Armagnac and Calvados thing. Slow down right before I get to my tails again. But I'm not so much paying attention to how much volume I'm getting. In fact, and I know that people do that. I've heard people do that, and I've talked to people that do that. It's just not something I ever paid much attention to. I guess I've always been much more focused on, are my cuts where I want them at? Is the flavor where I want it at? Is it being done in a reasonable amount of time? Obviously, not stretching out anything. Some of these guys that say they stretch out their, damn keg still runs for 14 and 15 hours. Is it being done in a reasonable amount of time with a reasonable amount of fuel, making a good quality product? Those are the main questions. And I think that's what sometimes gets lost or forgotten in the distilling trade, both at home and on a professional level. So if you're getting better quality by running slower, I say run slower, in all honesty. I think what may be happening to some degree is with that large copper onion that you have, you're getting some clouding that's happening in there as well. And that clouding, although it's good, it's conversation with copper, it cleans up a little bit more. If there's too much of it happening, right, that's not all coming off, at a consistent rate, you can probably get some smearing out of that too, but it sounds to me like you know exactly what you're doing, and you're focused on exactly what you need to be doing, and you know the direction you need to go to make a good high quality spirit. I don't know if that answered your question in any way, shape, or form. Maybe it was just confirming what you already knew, but I appreciate these kinds of questions, because again, that brings up the idea of, what are you focused on? Are you focused on speed? Are you focused on quality? Are you focused on attention temperature? Because we talk about that a lot on this channel. I think that certainly the quality factor is always greater than the speed factor, within reason, right? Not running a damn keg still for 14 or 15 hours. Not in my lifetime. That ain't happening. So anyways, man, keep the questions coming. We'll move on to the next one here. I've got one more here, maybe 2 more. Let me look and see. It's hard to say. I haven't been getting as many as what I had been, and I hope it picks up soon for sure. So, all right. So let's see. This is from Doug. So, hey, Alan, I was given many bottles of wine that could no longer be commercially sold. I distilled that into a high-proof distillate. I recently got a Badmo barrel, and I'm wondering if aging this in that barrel will greatly enhance it. What proof should it go into the barrel at? Thanks. Good luck at Old Homestead. Thank you. Planning a visit later this year. I look forward to meeting you, man, for sure. I spent a week on the Bourbon Trail last week, including Copper and Kings and Limestone Branch. A good time for all. Man, I love Limestone Branch. Steve Beam's one of my favorite human beings on the face of this planet. Been a supporter of mine since day one. Been a great friend to me. Anytime I've ever needed somebody to talk to, anybody to lean on in this industry, Steve Beam has been that guy. And Fonte, maybe the best salesman in the entire industry. One more question. Can you give us any update on Spring Mill Distillery Project? Thanks for answering our questions. So when it comes to the wine, first question would be, is this sulfated wine or unsulfated? I presume you know this by now because you distilled it. If it was sulfated heavy enough, it would have A, choked up the copper in your still, but B, also would have just had an atrocious nose on it that you couldn't get anywhere near your face. If that's the case, and I'm presuming it's not, because I'm presuming you know this to be a quality distillate, or you wouldn't be, putting it into a Badmo barrel, which, is a significant investment for a home distiller to put into, but always worthwhile. I love the guys over at Badmo. Christopher does great stuff, and he's a great person, so always support that guy for sure, absolutely. And Ian at 1030 as well, I love him too. So if it's a good quality distillate, it's a good quality brandy, I would say it's very, very much worthwhile to put it into a barrel. I would personally not go into anything over a 2 char if possible. You know, depending on what kind of wine it was, I might even just do a toasted barrel, like a medium plus toast. Now, I do like brandy in a number 2 charred oak barrel, especially apple brandy, and sometimes grape brandy, if it's a strong enough grape brandy in particular. You know, something with some real oomph behind it, like a Catawba or a Muscat or a Colombard or something of that nature. A little bit more phenolic, a little bit more terpene forward. I really love a number 2 charred oak barrel to sort of tame that down a little bit. Not so much tame it, but balance it, I guess. Bring those perfumey notes more into balance with the barrel and the expectation sensory-wise of what you're drinking as an actual spirit that you might want to have more than one glass of, because some of those can be very strong wine, or very strong brandies, as it were. So the proof that I would do, typically on brandy, I like to put in at full proof. The reason for that is because brandy is much more volatile, right? This is something they do in cognac that you'll see a lot, something that they do in Calvados that you see a lot. The goal is to go into the barrel at whatever the still proof is, because you want to hold on to all of that volatile aroma, right? Most of the flavor of brandy is actually in the aroma. It's actually in the nose, right? People sometimes get the wrong idea that apple brandy is going to taste like apples, or the peach brandy is going to taste like peach, or whatever the case may be. But as you know now, by making this white spirit, this eau de vie, as it were, that's not necessarily the case. It's very much about the aroma, and you want to hold on to that aroma, that volatility. Going in at a higher proof, what that allows you to do basically is it contracts the alcohol and it keeps it from oxidizing so easily, right? So with bourbon, we go in at a lower proof because we want that micro-oxidization to happen over time fairly quickly, and we're not necessarily looking for the exact flavors and the aromas of that raw material all the time, although I do that quite often. So we'll go in at a lower proof to destabilize the alcohol and get that oxidization over time. With brandy, my preference would be, especially on a small home scale, where this is much more practical, is to go in at full proof. Let it sit there for a year. Get in that barrel in a year, maybe 2 years, whatever, however long you're going to age. See how much is evaporated out. Whatever's evaporated out, replace that with water. Do that every year, right? This is called élevage. It's a French word which means to raise up, or to raise a child, right? And what you'll find is that you'll be able to hold on to far more of that aroma, which will get far more of the impression of the initial fruit or the wine that you started with. And you'll be able to avoid saponification, because brandy saponifies much more easily than what whiskey does, because there are more of those long chain fatty acids floating around in there. And so to avoid that, you need to proof down slowly. Now, you can do that outside the barrel after the aging process if you want, but you really need to take a long time with that. Don't drop it more than a couple proof points at a time every week until you get where you're going. If you do it over years, though, there's much less of a possibility of saponification on accident, and you're slowly destabilizing that alcohol while holding on to the aroma. I also wouldn't try to put that barrel somewhere very warm. I'd put that barrel in a place that doesn't have more than 15, 20 degrees differentiation throughout the year in temperature, so that you're also not just hitting that thing with heat, blowing off all that volatility and thus losing the aroma. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a spirit that doesn't taste like anything other than the cask itself, which, if that's what a person's into, then I'm all about it. But there's certainly much cheaper ways to get that result, if that makes sense. So anyways, guys, thank you for the questions. Please keep them coming. I'll keep the videos coming. And if you guys fill up the inbox, man, I'm going to print them off. I'm going to have at them, and we're going to do a marathon session of talking head videos, because I need to get a bunch of them done and get them out there. So love y'all. AlchemistCabinet.com, Old Homestead Distillery. Catch you soon.